shall we?
Yes, please.
All right. I'll ring the bell.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, Bill, welcome.
It's actually Bill is my dad, and I go. He was William
This is
Louis
Steve.
Wilson, and this is Tony.
Oh my
From-
God, Tony!
Yes, hey, Mr.
It's so
Tony.
nice to see you.
Yeah. Hi,
Yes, hey,
Tony.
Frank. Yeah,
We forget that Tony is part of William, I guess.
I know. It's William Helmut is the
I
translation.
I love your blue theme.
Ah,
Your blue
isn't it?
shirt, your white
Yeah.
and blue.
There's the guys that protecting me. Jackie
Oh my
Mooney,
God, you've got a
Bhagavad
whole
Gita.
legion.
Oh, and he Samantabhadra, Mr. Engaged Buddhism, and some ashes of people in the jars there. But yeah, I have protection. I have some big guns.
You look wonderful.
Well,
So
thank
nice
you.
I'm so happy to see you.
Well, thank you so much. I all of a sudden I was actually on the phone doing Googling stuff, you might know, but all of a sudden this popped up that there was this meeting going on that I was supposed to be at, and I didn't realize that. So,
Well, I want you to know that you were one of the few names that came to mind, because I thought, okay, we're meditating, right? And Albert is being busy being Albert. And so I thought of you, I thought of Jim, I thought of Dennis, I thought of Brian. I think there were like 10 or 12. There were others I thought, oh, I would love to see them, but I haven't seen them in ages. And I thought, what's better than now? Okay, what are you doing now? Is it really like what you want to do right now, or would you like to hear some chatting? Anyway,
Dharma talk.
Dharma talk. We could always use. I don't know if this is going to be a Dharma talk,
Okay.
but I think on that note, I'm going to begin.
Okay.
And I've never had a talk turn my head around as much as a talk that Robina gave, Venerable Robina.
I love her.
I don't think
Yep.
she would care. And she said, I'm going to talk about problems. Well, she usually asks what we want to talk about. I don't know what I told her. She said, I'm going to talk about problems are like ice cream. And I thought, oh, okay. So first of all, I want to say problems are like ice cream, meaning fill in the blank. Is it a veggie burrito? Is it apple pie? Is it, what do you crave the most? And she said that's what problems are. That's what challenges. I should start out, because this was part of my planned speech. Unlike my teacher, John Adraka, I do know what I'm going to say. And I wrote out some notes yesterday because I got the invitation from Stephen, and I went, okay, I did this one before. And you know what? I really like this format. There's just something about, like, I'm seeing myself right now, and it's like I'm talking to myself, and I can't lie, I can't dissimulate, but there's so much I would like to say, and I'm sorry if I kind of ramble a little bit, because that's my nature. But the first thing I want to do is refer to the fact that nothing really, all we have is experiential knowledge, knowledge that about ourselves or what we do, that we've tried or we've failed, we've succeeded. And, that's the basis, not just Dharma talks, but life coach talks about, how I got to be here and, who I am and all that. But, and I always start out by thinking, the Buddha taught many things, or so we know, but he only taught 4 things. He said, there's suffering. There's a cause of suffering. This is where the, scripturalists come in and say, I love thirst. It's like you're out in the desert and like, give me something to drink. And then all you can think about is that drink, whether it's water, whether it's booze, And the third is, oh, guess what? There's an end to that. Oh, really? Yeah. And then there's a tenfold path. And I found something on the web, and it was this virtuous, which, relates to our Christian background, but I like the skillful, and they really, I'm going to look at my notes now, because you can sort of divide them or classify them. I think I learned this from memory here. Oh God. Okay, this is embarrassing. Kindle wants to know it's me. So it's really like relating to body, speech, and mind. Body is like killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. That's where we queers trip up on. We go, okay, what are you talking about? Well, we've used people for sex.
Yeah.
We've used sex in different ways. Not that it has to be for love, but in ways that might harm ourselves or the other person. I've had occasions where people were really interested in me. They interpreted what happened as something else, and that's not what I wanted. And so you move on, or, gosh, he's a real hunk, and you get them in bed. But you won't take them home, because I remember dating, 6 months is like, my limit for then realizing, no, this is not the person for me. He was very effeminate, and he wasn't smart. And I want someone to be smarter than me. And so I was ashamed, and my next door neighbor came down, talk about her opera singing, and please, she lived right above our apartment, my apartment, actually, my studio on Balboa. And I don't even remember his name, but, she kind of looked at him, and I thought, yeah, but I liked his company. He was like, he didn't want to talk intellectual stuff. He didn't, it was fine. I mean, and so, kind of rounding back to Robina's talk about problems are like ice cream, mind is a forerunner of all things, and it's experiential. And if you want to think that he doesn't love you, or that he used you, he mistreated you, he abused you, that's just the way it's going to turn out for you. I mean, it's what direction you want to go. And one of the things we do in Buddhism is, and I'm going to go back to the other two, which have to do with mind and speech, but is we study the mind, not the neural mind, not what the neuroscientists look at, the brain, but the mind that we create every second. And my teacher, John Madraka, said to me, she says, your mind produces thoughts like your body produces sweats. That's what it does. There's no, that's just what it does. And so as a study, like I study my own mind, my habits, my states of mind. And then going back to the other two, of course, my Kindle is like gone now, but we have the other sets of skillful means that have to do with the body. Then we have the mind, and we have speech, which is divisive speech, hateful speech. There's something else I don't remember right now, idle gossip. And usually in idle gossip, you know how that goes, is like Jim did this, and I'm so much better than he is because I've never done that. That's just like, I may have slept around, but I really didn't sell my body. Or so it's, and that's all you need to know. And then you can walk away from whatever you've read. And you know what? I'm a friend of the Buddha. I'm not a Buddhist, because that would really limit me in ways that I don't think I deserve, because I've learned a lot from my Christianity. I'm currently a practitioner of Ifa, which is Yoruban religion. And it's something that, people don't like to talk about, because right away they think, oh my God, they sacrifice animals. Well, the Jews sacrificed animals. And so, but I keep all things separate. And yet, the Buddha taught me how to deal with every situation I'm in. And I'm really thankful about that. And so where I bring the twist about problems are like ice cream, being queer, being gay, whatever you want to call it, has caused problems for me, as I'm sure for you in different ways. And I get a chance, though, to look at what are my problems? Well, lack of intimacy. Not really. I will kiss you and hug you, and then it's like 10 minutes and I'm okay. And I have a hard time trusting people. And even those people who've really opened themselves up to me, it just like overwhelms me. I mean, I don't know how I could reveal myself. And, it's always the self-judging. And then they're going to be even worse judges of you. And so, but really all I have to say about this subject is that I will continue to study my mind states, which are, like if you're feeling anger, you're angry, that's, but if you're feeling compassion, that's what you are. And then, the next minute somebody irritates you and the compassion flies out the door. But I just want to look at my notes here just 1 second to see if there's something I really have forgotten that I wanted to say. Meditate. Okay. I was watching The Trouble with Angels. Haley Mills. Has anybody seen that? With Rosalind Russell and Haley Mills, and they're all in a parochial school. And she helps this young girl sew her graduation dress. And she says, what is this? There's like one long sleeve and one short sleeve with ruffles up to here. And she says, I would have done that differently. And when we consider everything, and I could go on, this is a different topic. When I consider everything, I realize I could have done that differently. I could have said that a different way. I could have shown it a different way. I could have kept silent. I could have encouraged a person, discouraged a person, regardless. That's what friends are for. And that's it. That's all I have to say about that.
Can I chime in here?
Oh yeah, this is time to chime in.
The whole issue with problems. First of all, a problem, like beauty, is in the mind of the beholder. And that, when you told me, problems are like ice cream, I'm thinking, well, yeah, some problems are just nuts. Other problems, if you try and jump at it immediately, you end up with brain freeze. So you really need to, if you perceive something as a problem, I speak only for myself. If I see something as a problem, I take that to my shrine. I mean, okay, so you're driving, you get a flat tire. Is that a problem? Yeah, it could be if you let it get you really upset, or you get you all for your ass and you do whatever those things are you do with twirly stuff and pull nuts off of things and you fix your tire and there you go, or you call AAA or whatever. So it's really, a problem is a matter of perspective. And I find that if I've got what I define as a problem and I have an immediate reaction to it, often my reaction or my way of fixing it may do nothing more than compound the issue. So I really see that the key, as you said, is practice, meditate, to depending on the depth of the problem. There are some problems that are simply part of being in life. You can't get around it. Like, I'm getting old. My body is saying, oh, don't do that anymore. So I'm real careful crossing streets because I don't want to have to run for a car and fall on my face and get run over. So, you accept some problems as simply the way it is. And I like the idea of ice cream. Like I jokingly said earlier, I'll bring some gelato, pistachio. That, what you do with what you consider a problem is the most important thing. And how you do it, for me, is you sit down and I take that in front of that's part of my meditation. Like you, I had a real problem with trust. After being in a relationship for almost 20 years, and then being confronted with my partner saying he's going to have a baby, and he told everybody but forgot to tell me, that created some real trust issues. And it took me 16 years to get beyond that and say, I'm ready to give it a try again. So now here I am married.
I just want to add, because I don't want to do disservice to Robina, that she said, actually, which was ironic, she says you should crave, right? Crave problems like ice cream. Because how are you going to try out the Eightfold Noble Path? I mean, the Tenfold Noble Path, or Eightfold, actually. I lose count. But, and that we should welcome them, well, yes, we welcome them because we're stuck with them. But I just wanted to add that because by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but she's going to be here 2 weeks from today. She's in Europe somewhere, and she can talk about it. I don't care what she talks about.
There is a Buddhist principle that in Japanese is called Bono Sokobodai, which means that defilements, desires, attachments are enlightenment, which is essentially what Robina was saying, that it's because of the obstacles that we have in our lives that we deepen our practice and deepen our wisdom, if you will. Mm-hmm. And in deepening that wisdom, we then can take that wisdom and help other people. So if you get somebody who is a new practitioner and they're going crazy with an issue, if it's an issue that I've dealt with, I can sit down with them and I can speak, I can empathize, not just sympathize, I can empathize. And I can encourage them in their practice because, you know what? I've been through that. And here's how I dealt with it. I'm not telling you need to do what I did, but I'm just telling you how I did it. And perhaps that will be enough encouragement to help that person address that issue in their own life. So yeah, in a way, it's because we grow because we have issues that we have to deal with. It's like the water that helps a plant grow.
Thank you, Stephen. That was very insightful. Really was. I mean, that's all we live for, problems. When things are like peachy keen and like we're in Hawaii for 2 weeks, we know that we're coming back to a set of things that we left unfinished. I want to hear what other people have to say. I don't know what the time is right now, but oh, we have 15 minutes.
I'll do a quick comment because it relates to Rubina and stuff. Is we were in Sarnath I do the pilgrimage with her, and we were going to take our vows. And the two you mentioned, the one with sex and the one with intoxicants, I said their ground base is going to be way different than I have as a gay man. And I'm going to have to do a little more worry about that one, those two guys, before I take them on. And I actually thought a long time about the Bodhisattva vow too, because if I take that one on, I don't want to mess it up. I want it to be wholehearted, warm-hearted, whatever you want to call. So,
Love
but
it.
yes, yeah, those two, I identify with your ordering, your pecking order there. We all have these other ones about not harming and speech, and they're important.
They
But,
are important.
yeah, sometimes you don't
But-
take on everything at once.
You know, the sexual misconduct, we don't have a lot of opportunity for sexual misconduct. Number one, our age. Number two, COVID. I thought, I mean, you wear your mask, but I mean, what if it's coming out of a different orifice? You know, I don't. It's like the AIDS thing. And, you know, we think like, well, we know what to do and what not to do, but you know, even if it's not a part of our lives anymore, it's still on our minds. The sex thing is like,
Yeah.
and people say, well, the only difference is that, you know, your sexual orientation. And I said, oh my God, that's like my whole life, a set of experiences of how I have felt, perceived, and my self-confidence has gone up. You know, if I was a good lover, or, you know, gone down, I'm not as attractive. And, you know, it's a challenge, right? So we welcome it in, and, you know, we do the best that we can.
Well, let's not forget the society described us. We chose the word gay for ourselves. Society called us homosexuals. Hello, okay, if you're gonna call me that,
Yeah, I know.
I'll show you.
I know. Well, you know, with our partners, we get is it sort of the idealized way to work out our, you know, the tenfold noble path, or eightfold. I keep calling it tenfold. I'm going to have to come up with the other two. There must be a queer other two that we're not like tuning into. But anyway, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Frank, Stephen, I mean, you're like the Dharma guy. I'm just like feeling. I'm the pinch hitter for Rubina. I'm the opening act, and sometimes they're stars, and sometimes they're not. But you know, I mean, we reveal ourselves when we practice Buddhism, the precepts, and I've gone through so much of it, and I somehow don't feel that I have enough of it. And how can I become better at what I do? And I still love Rosalind Russell's line saying, I would do that over again. Yeah.
For me, I appreciate what you talked, Albert. It was insightful. I came to be a teacher in the Zen tradition because I was going to all of these trainings where people talked about the first two noble truths. There is suffering and a reason for suffering. And at some point, after pulling out a lot of my hair and so forth, I said, there are two other noble truths, that there's an end to suffering and a path to get us to that end. Whether it has 8 or 10 steps is not important.
Yeah.
And I think that I remember a book by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, and they talked about, they had lives of great difficulty, and both had been imprisoned and countries taken away from them and all that sort of stuff. And they used the line, "We are the men we are today, not in spite of those experiences, but because of them." And so for me, part of the Buddha's path is I don't see the Buddha's path as, the Buddha said actually many things. One of the teachings was, I came to teach one thing, suffering and the end to suffering, one thing. And so I worry sometimes when we, in our American way of thinking about things, get hooked on that. There is suffering, and we should have suffering, and harm's been done. And so let's really concentrate there. And we all have to be there at sometimes, and we all have to have that as a foundation. But to me, it's a foundation from which, like no mud, no lotus. So we have to be in the mud, but we have to remember that it's not. I don't have a career, spiritual life, sexual, or any other kind of goal to be stuck in the mud. I recognize that there is mud, and that there are cravings, and it's my relationship to the cravings that can cause me suffering or not. But I think that, that I have my statue of the Buddha is the laughing Buddha. I think if I'm going to go through all this and, sit for 12 hours at a time without speaking to people in a damp room, on a chair now because of my age, but before on a zafu, and I'm going to do all the things we need to do to build Sangha, I want us to have a good time. I want us, they didn't, as Stephen said, they used to call us homosexuals. They actually called us queers and faggots is what they called us when I was a kid. And we chose gay for a reason. That, you folks just don't understand that you don't have to get married and go live in suburbia and have a bunch of little kids and 2 little cars.
And we don't have to be stuck in the mud.
Right. Yeah, you can if you want to. That's a beautiful thing to do if you want to. But we get to go to New York and spend a lot of our time on Broadway and to do all those gay things. And then we spread gay all across the country. So I'll stop now and let Frank hasn't had a chance to talk. But I just think that it's always important for us.
You keep talking.
Always important for us as we think about what the Buddha taught. I taught one thing, suffering and an end to suffering. And so I always hope that people do the suffering, recognize the suffering, own the suffering, and engage with the suffering. But that's not a test for me in my personal Buddhist practice, that is, and my spiritual practice. That is not a destination. It is a starting place. So that's all.
Well, I just want to say I love there's like a Jewish joke about how it's my suffering, whose headache is this, whose menstrual period is this, it's mine. But I try to I learned something when I realized that it wasn't pain. We're not talking about pain. We're talking about the attachment to pain.
Right.
When all we do is talk about our pain. And my mom will say something like, why do you want to hear about my arthritis? Let's talk about something else. And I said, well, yeah, you want to take your mind off of it, And what Buddhism says is practice loving kindness, practice compassion, practice, these things that get you out of yourself. It's not really unlike any other teaching.
First of all, Bill, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Why, is today his birthday?
Well, whose birthday? Mine?
Bill. Wow.
Today is Bill's birthday?
Yeah.
Mine was on Friday.
To you. Happy birthday to you.
Whose was on Friday?
Frank had a birthday on Friday.
Right.
He's the real one.
But that's this coming Friday, right?
No, it was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Did I? Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
So I don't know if I've shared this, but we're talking about problems and how to approach them. My nephew and niece-in-law, who now live in Texas, I think I may have mentioned this. They've got two daughters, Emily, 14, and Anna, who is just turned 12. And since we're talking about menstruation,
We are.
yeah,
Well, we did. Yes, I'm sorry.
yeah, but hey, you
Bring
brought
that
it
up.
up. I didn't.
Like we know a lot about it. I love it when men talk about women's issues. And we
Well,
it must be like menstrual extraction.
my niece-in-law has, and my nephew had a talk with me because Anna, who is just now beginning to develop breasts and that kind of stuff, is having some really severe gender identification issues.
Mm.
And she's got her cut her hair real short. My niece-in-law says she got a bra that's almost like a non-bra that pushes everything in instead of letting it come out.
Mm.
And she's wearing boys' clothes, and they, they've been talking with me about how to deal with it. And this is one of those issues that I have taken to my shrine. To be very honest, because at her age, especially living in Trump land, Texas.
Oh dear.
Yeah, doesn't sound good.
Some really severe additional environmental issues that she's going to have to be able to navigate. And, I made it clear to them that Anna can call Uncle Steve any time of day or night if she needs to talk. She can call him. Because my nephew, when he was 17 and his dad was fighting with his mom, and he interposed himself because dad was an alcoholic and was going to hit mom, and then called me crying, he knows that Uncle Steve is going to be there. And I will do my best to bring Buddha wisdom to the whole thing. And it's part of the reason they felt okay calling me. And
how has the family reacted?
What's that?
How has her family reacted? Are they supportive or are they horrified or what?
Well, the only issue they were worried about is my other nephew and his wife, who is super Roman Catholic. And both of their brains have been kind of burned by QAnon. They live in the suburbs of Raleigh. And I urged, because they were doing a Zoom call and my other nephew's little boy started making fun of Anna. Oh, you look like a boy. What's wrong with you? So I urged, my older nephew to call his brother and have a private conversation so that they understand what's going on, because my nephews have always been very, very close. And the older nephew has always been very protective of the younger one. So apparently they did that. We talked in advance on how to deal with Diane when she starts bringing up QAnon stuff. And the Raleigh crowd, they refuse to get vaccinated. So, they're coming to Uncle Steve on how do we deal with this. And I'm just trying to give them advice based on my practice. And both of the boys, when they were little and I would go to visit, they would sneak into the closet to hide, thinking Uncle Steve didn't know they were there while he was doing his chanting and recitation. So they both know where Uncle Steve was coming from. And strangely enough, when I was visiting back in Wilmington, the two girls snuck into the closet thinking Uncle Steve didn't see them there while he was doing his meditation. So my practice has a place in my family. And I'll keep you all posted on what goes on, because one of my suspicions is that Anna, from the time when she was 5 years old, she was 5 going on 35. if you know what I mean. She's a deep thinker. She says what she thinks. And I have a suspicion that her sense of self, period, is not being well received by boys in school, and that she's being made fun of. And I think something that may be going on is that she thinks, well, if I'm like a boy, then they have to take me seriously. It's hard to say when you're dealing with a kid that's just heading into puberty, because we all know that puberty is a horrible time. It really is. It's a time of confusion. It's a time of self-doubt. It's a time of asserting yourself and at the same time being unsure what to do. So I'm just really trying to use my practice to help them work their way through this problem so that they don't feel that this is an insurmountable problem, if you know what I mean.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Albert had his hand up, but it
Oh,
is
and then
4
I
o'clock.
lowered
So
it.
maybe, oh, you did. So
I
maybe we
did.
should take the
Yeah.
refuges, and then whoever wants to can remain behind and
How
have
about
social time.
Mr. Tierney?
What?
Would you like to close with the refuges?
No, one of you regular folks should do that.
Why don't we
And I'll
say
be
it all
right here.
together?
Okay. I take refuge in the
Refuge in the
Buddha.
Buddha.
I
I
take
refuge
in the
in the
Dharma.
and
I take refuge in the
in the
Sangha.
Sangha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
Buddha.
I
I
take
take
refuge in the Dharma.
Dharma. I
I
take
I take
take
refuge in the
Sangha.
Sangha.
I
I
take
take
refuge.
refuge in the Buddha.
Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
Dharma. And I
I
take
take
refuge
refuge
in the Sangha.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you,
Thank
Stephen.
you.
Stephen's our hero for the week. He made all of this happen.